At every episode of Yoga and Meditation, we try to bring to you some new aspects about knowing yourself and self healing. And therefore, this episode is very special because we have with us a very renowned figure in the field of yoga, Ayurveda, and Vedic knowledge system, none other than Vamadeva Shastri ji, David Frawley with us. Global namaste to you and a very good morning. Vamadeva Shastri ji has written many numerous books. He is a recipient of Padma Vibhushan, as well as his contribution in the field of Vedic knowledge system, yoga, Ayurveda, and Hinduism is very profound. The world knows his contribution, where he has taken up this Indian knowledge systems across the oceans and has prevailed the flagship of this Vedic systems globally and have taught so many students and enlightened the lives of people. Today, we are here again to take some note and blessings from him. And also, we are very happy to celebrate at this episode the launch of his new book, The Yoga Beyond Body and Mind, the translation and commentary of Upadeshasaram of Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi ji. Global namaste to you, Vamadeva Shastri ji, and we all are eagerly waiting to know what profound knowledge this book holds, as this book's name itself reveals a lot of things.
Namaste, Amrit, and very good to be with you and to be with our friends there, Jeffrey and so many others all over the world. And it is my great honor to be with Healing the Earth again. And we have done other programs with you in the past, and we look forward to doing other programs in the future. We're just trying to figure out when and where in the world these are going to be, because I suppose these could be almost anywhere, which is wonderful to know. And I'm also very happy to share with you my recent book, Yoga Beyond Body and Mind. And you can see a picture of Ramana on the other side here. And of course, the great inspiration there. And the book represents my association with Ramana and the ashram for actually well over 50 years now. And I'm very happy that Sri Ram Mohan, one of my main friends and associates at the ashram, who was running the mountain path and so many Ramana centers and traveling, was able to write a wonderful foreword to the book. And I'm also happy to do this book at several levels, because Ramana did not have so many direct teachings in Sanskrit of his own. So this was also put together by Kavyakanta Ganapati Muni. And I've also gone over it many times in the original Sanskrit chanting and all of it. Upadesha Saram means the essence of instruction, and that is relative to self-inquiry and self-realization. Now, why the title Yoga Beyond Body and Mind? And that is very simple, because the goal of yoga has always been to move beyond body and mind to pure consciousness, the inner self, the Paramatma. So, of course, yoga is being applied at many levels: physical, pranic, senses, concentration, pilgrimage, bhakti, jnana, karma, and so forth. All these have their place. And what's very important about this yoga beyond body and mind, it directs us to the path of self-inquiry and self-realization. but it also examines the role and the preparations for that relative to karma yoga, bhakti yoga, mantra yoga, pranayama, or taking also a very broad and integral view. We have this view in Yoga Vedanta of adhikara, or preparation, or being ready for the teachings. And that requires having a sattvic body and mind. It also requires, of course, yamas and niyamas of the yoga. But the goal of yoga is always samadhi, which is unitary consciousness, and specifically the nirvikalpa samadhi, the highest state of samadhi, which is a resting in our own inner being, the pure self, Parabrahman, and Paramatma, which is the supreme cosmic reality. Body is the vehicle of our manifestation. We teach how to deal with that, of course, with Ayurveda. And mind is the vehicle. But yoga is always about going beyond the mind. It goes all the way back, of course, to Yoga Sutras, where yoga is defined as chitta vritti nirodha, which means the silencing of the mind, negation of the mind, transcendence of the mind, and returning to the state of the drashta, the purusha atma, or the seer, which is beyond the activities of the mind. So in that regard, mind is the vehicle, but we need to go beyond the mind and its functions. Above all, being able to take what is called the sakshi bhava, or witnessing the mind, which also means witnessing our thoughts. You are not your thoughts any more than you are something on the outside of yourself. These are functions in Prakriti. These are aspects of karmic impressions from the past. So our goal then is to create this, what we would say is a disidentification with the mind. You no longer think, oh, I am the mind, or these thoughts, these opinions belong to me. No, you are the witness of the mind, just as you are the witness of the body. And of course, to reach that state, one must have a calm and concentrated dharmic and sattvic mind, as is also the basis of the inner aspects of yoga, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So we often say mind is our best friend and our worst enemy, but we must learn how to use it, concentrate it, but also go beyond it. For that, there are so many meditation practices. Ramana emphasizes self-inquiry, bringing up the question, who am I? Not what am I, or how other people see me, or how I appear, or what I do or want, but what is the essence of our being behind and beyond the mind, and behind and beyond the states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. Deep sleep is our, we might say, natural state of meditation, what is called shushupti. A few years ago, I did a book called Yoga of Consciousness, where I went through these states in some detail relative to the famous Mandukya Upanishads. And then meditation is cultivating, and yoga is cultivating what we call moment by moment awareness. Of course, there we have our times of practice. We have our different types of practice, but yoga should be an ongoing state of deepening self-awareness, which is not simply awareness of who we are as individual selves or minds or social entities, but recognizing that self-awareness is pervading everything in the universe. Whatever you see is part of the same seeing, is part of the same deeper reality. that same self pervades all of nature, and we are just one manifestation of the universal self. And it's our duty and our ultimate goal as human beings to allow that Paramatma to manifest within us and to connect with our universe as a whole and to share it with the rest of humanity. As we all know, most of us are trapped in the ego. We don't even know what the self is. And so those deeper teachings need to be given and shared, because if we do that, we can easily understand it, because self-awareness is our nature. If our awareness isn't there, of course, we're not there either. And we need to master the mind. And this is particularly true in this digital and AI era. I also mentioned that somewhat in the book to put it in a current context, that we need a consciousness of the witness of the inner self to be able to use all these tools that are expanding the outer mind, its sensory function, its information, its communication. We still need the vision of the yogi to raise this to a higher consciousness rather than simply have it trapped and controlled by the same egoistic forces or the forces of ignorance or avidya. Now, almost everyone knows of Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi. He had his great self-realization as a mere youth of 16 years old in Madurai, where he was living at the time. And he did this process of self-inquiry in 30 minutes and was able to move into that state of self-realization, which he never left again for the rest of his life and even, of course, beyond. He became a wandering sadhu. He ended up settling down, as it were, in Tiruvannamalai, which is the Agni Linga of Lord Shiva in Tamil Nadu. And the Arunachala mountain is said to be a manifestation of the Sri Yantra, in which one can connect to the great rishis and yogis. I remember going up the mountain once, and then a sadhu dressed in orange, very senior fellow, walked across near the top of the mountain in front of me and disappeared. It was a kind of darshan, you might say, in that form. I had, of course, gone to that mountain many times among many mountains, and also visited many of the great teachers that were still alive. My mentor, K. Natation, was born in, he lived to be 96 years old. So he was born in, I believe, around 1912, and he had been with Ramana from a very young age, and we were able to connect to the teachings from there, and also with many of the great inspirations there and Ramana's teachings, and the teachings of Kavyakanta Ganapati Muni, his chief disciple, who was also one of the he was the greatest Sanskrit writer of modern India. He did 1,000 verses on the goddess Uma, 40 chapters, each in a different Sanskrit meter. And he explored all the teachings of mantra and meditation. He was also a great adept in Ayurveda and Jyotish and every aspect of yoga, and understood all the subtle lokas and Vedic teachings. So I've tried to bring that in and share that with the particular book involved, and get us to take yoga directly beyond body and mind. But I should also mention that in the Upadesha Saram, Ramana also unfolds a stage-by-stage development of sadhana from all these methods of karma yoga, bhakti yoga, into creating the foundation for the atma vichara, or the self-inquiry, which is the culmination of the teachings, taking us to that understanding of our true self being the self of all, and the entire universe dwelling in the hridaya, or the spiritual heart, which Ramana gives so much emphasis to. That is the seat of the self, not just simply the physical heart or even the mind or even the heart chakra of the subtle body, the heart in the transcendent self as the seat of that pure, abiding, eternal, infinite self-awareness, of which we are but a limited human manifestation, but we have that great universal potential. So I offer my obeisance and my pranams to these great gurus. Many others have helped: Swami Dayananda, Saraswati of Arsha Vidya, Shivananda Murti, and many others that we have worked with over time. But this is the essential teachings, and we're very happy to share it with you. And I'm very happy to bring this out at this stage where at least I can share what I have done with it for quite a long period of time. So, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Hari Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om Tasat. Wow, amazing. What a prolific explanation, or in such a simple way you have explained about the journey of an individual. And I'm really touched upon the fact of talking um, about the spiritual heart. Can you tell our viewers what is a spiritual heart? And this also reminds me about when we talk about in Ayurveda and yoga about manaha and manasthiti, and how the manaha talks to yourself and gives you the fact of understanding and takes you inwards. What is the spiritual heart? Can you please explain to our viewers? Thank you.
Yes. Well, first of all, we should note that the Hridaya is the main factor actually mentioned in Upanishads.
Mm.
Uh, it has that great tradition. But Hridaya, as Ramana says, is not the physical heart. It's not also the heart chakra of the subtle body. If we were wanting to connect to it or locate it, it would be slightly to the right of the physical heart. And even Hridaya is mentioned in Yoga Sutras. The mind, the prana are all connected to or located in or have their origin in the Hridaya. From the Hridaya comes the source of awareness. It comes from also comes the source of prana, the source of speech. And essentially, we need to go back and follow these currents back to that essence of consciousness. The spiritual heart, or Hridaya, is also connected to the Karana Sharira, or the causal body, but even beyond that as the seat of the Atma. So when we inquire into who am I, and when we also inquire into the state of deep sleep and into samadhi, it is connected to that spiritual heart. And the Upanishads have a very important teaching called the Dahara Vidya, which means the small space within the heart. And it's said that the entire universe dwells within the small space within the spiritual heart. And if we go there, we can experience oneness with all. It is the essence of all yoga because it is the seat of the samadhi and, of course, the nirvikalpa samadhi. So it's important to bring that in. Of course, there is the Sahasrara, there is the Agnya chakra, all the different chakras. These have their relevance. But Ramana likes to take us to that essence of self-awareness in the Hridaya, because we all want to go back to the heart, but we don't go back to the essence of the spiritual heart. We often get caught up in outer emotions. So that is his emphasis. And he always talked about his teachings as heart but heart to heart in the sense of the Hridaya, not just at an emotional level. That's also where the essence of bhakti is, where we can experience oneness with the Ishta Devata and whatever aspect of the divine we are connected to, Shiva Shakti, or eventually the Paramatma, which is all the devatas and which contains all. Hari Om.
So wonderful. Vamadev Shastriji, I also wanted to ask you, you have been talking about intellectual knowledge before we move to Riddhi from London for more questions. Um, so how is intellectual knowledge connected with the spiritual heart? And how can an individual acquire, because in the time of AI, with the time of all the things where we have artificial intelligence, and how can an individual correlate that to connect oneself with this Hridaya? Thank you.
Well, we have to understand that the intellect is not an instrument of truth perception. It is not an instrument of self-knowledge or self-realization directly. The intellect exists to help us organize facts, information, action, and expression in the outer world. So the intellect works to organize knowledge based upon some other means of knowledge, sensory perception, data, experiments, what someone has taught us, or the use of logic. But the intellect is still the function of the chitta or the outer mind. Now, in the Vedanta, we need to develop the sattvic mind. Ramana says that that is the adhikara. That is what is necessary. But to do that, we have to turn the consciousness within. You did the Gayatri mantra, Diyo Yona Prachodaya. Diya is also the Vedic for Buddhi, but Buddhi is the higher mind turning within, letting go, and we move from Chitta, which is the mind in the manifest karmic sense, to Chit as pure consciousness, as the Paramatma, Purusha, the seer of all. So we need to use the intellect outwardly, but to reach the self-realization, we have to go beyond the mind. And in this context, there is a fundamental error or mistake in the mind we have to deal with, what we call the buddhi dosha, or the mistake or error of the buddhi. The buddhi determines what is true and what is false, what is right and what is wrong, but it doesn't always function in the right way. So its main mistake is taking the body and the mind to be the self. That is the buddhi dosha. That leads to what we call chitta dushti, or the damaging, the disturbance, the misperceptions in the mind. So we have to make that fundamental change and orientation of the intellect in that sense of first purifying it, making it sattvic, but also then developing that viveka or discernment. And Yoga Sutras, of course, emphasizes viveka vairagya as yoga. Viveka, discernment between name, form, and number, and the true self-being of pure consciousness. And vairagya is not identifying, giving up identification with the body and the mind. You use them as tools. You know, when you're driving your car, you don't think, I am my car. You're witnessing and directing the vehicle. So directing our instruments that way. Now, in our world today, we have so many instruments. The Upanishads say that the human being was created with five senses that move our awareness out in five different ways. Well, now we have not only five senses, but hundreds of artificial forms of sensation, information, and media, which actually often circumvent our buddhi. We don't have attention, we don't have discernment, so we let these outer factors occupy our minds. Now, any knowledge we get from the outside has to be judged or discerned according to our inner discrimination and power of attention, dharana, Shakti. And that is what people are losing today. We do need, of course, the communication, the information involved. It can be very helpful. We're doing that right now. But we must always remember that it's not a substitute for self-knowledge or the Atma Vidya. It is there for giving us more harmony or functioning in the outer world. And unless we get rid of and question the human ego, there's always the danger that whatever new technology we create, the human ego takes up for its same old power and control issues. And that's why today we not only need to study the new technology, we need to develop the yogic vision, the detachment, viveka, vairagya, to use it for a higher awareness, not just simply for the same outer factors we've been doing. Hari Om.
Thank you. Such an amazing way to look into oneself and to sustain in today's artificial world. I'm sure Riddhi from London and Alexandra from Croatia also look up for more questions for you. Riddhi, please take away, and then we follow up with Alexandra. Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Global Namaste, Vamadeva ji. It's lovely to have you here with us again. Just building on the whole idea here of Yoga Sutras with the avidya and the asmita.
Yes.
How would you explain to somebody that knows they should be doing yoga, that knows that they should be doing the sadhanas, but they get stuck at the level of Manamaya Kosha, and they
Yes.
haven't developed the Viveka Buddhi to be able to go to the level of actually having a continuous practice, even though intellectually the Viveka Buddhi says this is good for me, but they haven't quite assimilated to practicing and doing this, which takes them beyond the Manamaya Kosha into the Vijnanamaya Kosha. What are your words of advice for that person?
Yes, that's a very important question. And we have to understand this whole klesha theory in the Yoga Sutras, because that it shows the basic, I would say, pathology of the mind. And that is basically showing how the outer mind works. So we are all born in and arise in the state of avidya, which is said to be ignorance, but is not ignorance of ordinary things. It doesn't mean that you can't learn science or you can't do mathematics. It's a special avidya, which is the lack of the Atma Vidya. We do not know ourselves, or we do not know consciousness in itself. Our consciousness is something of observing things on the outside. And as we said, thoughts are actually from the outside and they're connected to our conditioning, environment, etc. So the foundation of yoga, and the foundation, of course, the yoga beyond the mind, is to go beyond that avidya. Now, as our lives and our consciousness and our mind develops, avidya moves into asmita or ahankara, which is this identification with the body and the mind. I am the body, I am the mind. And we get programmed by fear and other emotions. And of course, we come in with our karmas and our samskaras from past lives pushing us forward. And once that ego, ahankara, is established, it moves us into the realm of duality, raga, dvesha, attraction, repulsion, like and dislike, good and bad, and all the dualities that we get caught into. And so we get caught in this movement, this roller coaster of the dualities of the mind, which is mainly what manas and manomaya kosha is doing. And as this happens over time, we get trapped in what is called abhinavesha. And I like to explain it very simply as addiction. Our mind gets trapped in the dualities and it gets addicted to various habitual activities and very deep-seated attachments, desires, fears, and being dominated by the outer world. So we need to cultivate a higher awareness that counters the avidya, that counters the duality, that lets go of all this addictive patterns. And this is, of course, yoga. This is also dharana, dhyana, samadhi, power of attention. What's happening today? Who has a power of attention or dharana shakti? We're getting rid of it. Our attention span is in seconds. In yoga, it's supposed to be in hours, or it's supposed to be continually. So we need to turn the buddhi around. So ordinarily, we use our buddhi and our viveka to discriminate the factors of the outer world, name, form, number, self, other, and all these external things. And even in science, I'm not saying this is wrong, but you're looking at the outer factors. And so we turn the buddhi within by learning to discern between these prime factors, self and not self, sat and atsat, real and unreal, ananda and anananda, the essence of ananda from suffering, and darkness from light. We have, of course, these famous Diwali prayers and so forth, the eternal from the transient. So that aspect of buddhi has to be developed. And we also need to study these shastras and the teachings of the great gurus. Ramana's teachings were also very closely connected to those of Adi Shankara. And we also look into those as well. And we should also remember Adi Shankara produced the greatest bhakti stotras as well. So we need to develop a viveka, vairagya, sattvic-based buddhi and answer and question that issue of who am I? Not what am I, what I own, what is my identity, but what is the essence of my being and consciousness. Because whatever you see on the outside, even your thoughts, you are not that. Those are images and movements happening in the mind. You are the seer. So if you hold to the state of the seeing, rather than get caught in the seeing, then that higher power of awareness comes within you. There are many special little teachings in the Advaita Vedanta. Ramana also mentioned some of the Drigdrisha Viveka, discriminating between the seer and the seen. There's an important text of Adi Shankara on that. And then we also have to purify the mind. We have to let go of all these emotions, fear, anger, impatience, lack of concentration. So there's a lot of self-awareness, self-development, and yoga is also part of that, yamas, niyamas, and all this whole cultivation of the direct power of attention, which is what we call the ekagra citta, or the one-pointed mind. That is what we need. And that is, of course, the basis then of the buddhi in the higher sense, the one-pointed buddhi. But for that, we also have to bring that one-pointedness to the prana. And we also have to develop a steady focus of intention, sankalpa, sadhana. Life has to be a sadhana and a continual remembrance, self-remembrance, and holding to awareness in all that we do. In fact, if we have an inner awareness, we do whatever we do better. Sri Aurobindo used to say a yogi can always do something, can always be better, do something better than a non-yogi because they do it with full attention. So that is all part of this cultivation. And then Manomaya Kosha is connected to all the senses. Its goal is to organize sensory data, and which is coming to us from all sides. But Manomaya Kosha also has that point focus, so it tries to put together all these points and make them into some sort of picture as to what is going on. But the Vijnana is based upon knowledge that is experientially based, that is based upon direct knowing. And the senses do not give us direct knowledge. They give us appearances. We often say the world is Maya. What we mean by that is the world is an appearance. But to know what you have to know what is behind the appearance. We see the waves and we forget the ocean. So we develop this vijnana, or a more direct experiential knowledge, and that's what sadhana helps us do, because we are looking at things with viveka, vairagya, and seeing this and moving towards the state of the seer, the Purusha, rather than just looking at things from the outside, getting a quick impression here, running after enjoyment there, and being dominated by our senses. So we need to open the third eye, the unitary, direct seeing of the self. And it's simply to ask, who am I when I'm caught up in the outer world? It's a good medicine because you realize you're not what's going on at the outside. And even, okay, we have all these issues, fear, desire, anger, they go away. You can witness them, you can transcend them. And from the Manomaya Kosha, we have to go beyond to Vijnana, Ananda.
Yeah.
And Ananda as the essence of contentment and shanti, not simply an emotional high, and move into the nirvikalpa state where we witness the mind. Everything the mind is doing is actually a vikalpa. It's something that is imagined. It is not a direct perception. That comes out of the Atma when we are the seer, the self, the knower of all. And the wonder, the beauty is that is our true nature. But you have to turn within to the Hridaya to discover that, and you can. The presence of the Guru helps, the mantra helps, certain meditation helps, pilgrimage helps, so many things. So that journey into consciousness and samadhi. Don't leave out samadhi in your life. Don't leave out nirvikalpa samadhi in your life. Emotions and pleasures are fine, but they're just little ripples at the surface of ananda, shanti, and self-awareness. Hari Om.
Thank you. Oh, amazing. That was so lovely.
So I think
Alexandra,
beautiful answer as
yeah,
well.
Riddhi.
Alexandra, I'll come to you in just a second, but I just want to have another question here as well. So we're talking about going into Anandamaya Kosha, and that's actually really peering into the true self as what is real, the Jiva Atma, as you will. So this actually brings out another sense to me, which is tamas, rajas, and sattva. And then we have gunastita. And gunastita is really where we let go of all of the other ragas, dveshas, kleshas, and we come into a state of equilibrium. Is that the same as actually going into a state of anandamaya kosha? Is there another level to it?
Well, first we must understand that there is Ananda and Anandamaya Kosha.
Right.
Anandamaya Kosha is the reflection of the Ananda into the Jivatma, into the and it is the basis of the state of deep sleep. It also, whatever pleasure, happiness you're experiencing through the mind, the body, or the senses is but a reflection of that deeper transcendent ananda. And that ananda maya kosha is actually the core of the karana sharira that holds all of our deeper desires, wishes, aspirations, and so forth. So we move in through the Ananda Maya Kosha, but it is the pure Ananda that is self-existent. It is Atma. It is not. It is Satchit Ananda. It is not simply a kosha, but it is reflected into the mind. And of course, the highest Ananda is Gunatita. It's beyond the qualities of things outwardly. Now, what is happening in life, there's also what we call Ananda as the rasa, or the essence. We are always looking for a deeper essence. You get some essence or tanmatra through the senses indirectly. You can go to them more directly into the subtle body. Even an artist is looking for a rasa, an essence of beauty. Knowledge, you're looking for an essence of knowledge. But the ultimate essence is your own being, your own atma, which is, of course, the basis of ananda as the unity or the oneness with all. So let us seek ananda, but let us seek the immortal, infinite ananda. Let's not just run after its shadows in the outer world, because they come and go. And what sorrow is running into this imperfect or dualistic, or you might say contrary seeking ananda. And again, we have to purify the mind of the tamas, the rajas, and the sattva, the darkness, the ignorance of tamas, the arrogance of the and passion of the rajas. And we go through sattva, but we also have to transcend sattva, because sattva is the sattvic mind, but that's the basis for moving to the consciousness beyond the mind. It needs to be developed, but it also then you have to eventually let go of the mind, and you will discover that ananda is the essence of everything. And sat chit are also ananda, shanti, ishvara, paramatma, etc. Hari Om.
Wonderful. Alexandra, over to you.
Thank you so much. Global Namaste from Croatia. It was just, yeah, I'm mesmerized by this cascading waterfall of nectar coming out of your precious mind and heart, Devaji. I would like to invite you just here to Croatia and leave Dr. Amrita and really to ask you questions. I'm just speechless. I'm here to learn. So thank you so much.
Well, I would be very happy to join you there. We have had a lot of connections to Eastern Europe. In fact, we often find the students in Eastern Europe are better than those in Western Europe, not to criticize anyone per se. So yes, that is very important. And we also found out that there's a strong connection of Eastern Europe with India. When I was in the National Museum of Bulgaria, they had a book, and their book said that their original culture came from India. So there is that connection with the Slavic world and the people who have come across the steppes of Asia, as it were. In any case, we need to all go back to our origin and the great rishis and yogis and their great teachings. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Vamadeva, I would like you to meet Professor Naveen Gupta, Ayurvedacharya from London, and he's also a very big fan of yours, as I am. And Professor Naveen Gupta, your comments about the book, as well as if you have any questions, please go ahead. Thank you.
The comment about the book is, I'm about to read this book. I already know that Dr. David Frawley, from my first meeting 30 years ago at the Delhi University, and then further at many other places. And so this is the Vedic books from the American Institute of Vedic Studies, which is on my screen now. Yoga Beyond Body and Mind. So yoga beyond body and mind is the self. And Dr. Vamadev ji, Shastri ji, आपको प्रणाम, बहुत बहुत प्रणाम आप. तो आप, he spoke about Ramana Maharshi teachings and everything. Riddhi and you have spoken so many words: asmita, ahamkara, avidya, sukshma sharira, sthul sharira, karan sharira, advait vedanta. You have spoken everything, so I do not know what words I will speak. I will only speak one word from Charaka Samhita. It's reference from that. Health results from the natural balanced state of the doshas. Therefore, the wise try to maintain them in their balanced state. And everything mentioned by Vamadevji Shastriji about Upanishada. So I will just read one Upanishad teaching and then I will say Hari Om. The essence of all beings is earth. The essence of earth is the water. The essence of water is the plants. And the essence of plant is the human being. Hari Om. Pranam.
Hari Om. But it also says that the essence of the human being is speech, and the essence of speech is Om, and Om is the essence of everything. So we are all manifestations of that Om, which is Paramatma, which is the sound of the self, which creates the universe. Om is also Pranava, which is the indicator of Ishvara as the Adiguru of yoga. So we should not forget our divine and transcendent origins. Yes, we have earth, water, fire, air, and ether. We have the three gunas, but we also have that witnessing self, that inner seer. And yoga and meditation is just about going to our inner home, turning within to our eternal reality, which is one with all. Hari Om.
That is why I wanted you to continue. That's why I didn't ask the question. This was my style of asking the question to you, at stopping at the human being. So I knew that you will continue it as a seer. And I knew also that you are taking the teachings of Ramana Maharshi in a very beautiful way, Advait Vedanta, with one beautiful things what all of you have mentioned, Acharyaji, you, Vamadev Shastri, I call you Acharyaji, and Riddhi also mentioned about Gunatita. So with just a simple song, and I will finish and will Hari Om to everybody. That is Kalatita, Gunatita, Bhavatita, Brahma, 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 Mehatto Mahatara, Brahma, 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 Sukshmato Sukshmata, Brahma, 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 Brahma. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Om. Thanks for mentioning that Parabrahma, Paramatma is the same, but yet they represent one, the self of all, and two, everything. So Brahman and Atman, that is us, and we are all, and we are always there, and that is always within us, around us, and within all. Hari Om.
Vamadeva Shastri Jatwa, that was so wonderful to have you and talk to you about this book. Before we leave you, we don't want to actually, isn't it, Riddhi? It is such an enlightening and a nice start of our episode. I would like to
Anyway,
just ask you before we have Jeffrey Armstrong as well with us. Global Namaste, Jeffrey ji. Would you like to have any comments and any questions for Vamadeva Shastri ji before we move further?
Vamadeva is an acharya who speaks for himself. I think it is most important that we just listen deeply to what he said. And I remind everyone, the English language was not designed to repeat and to express this Sanskrit Vedanta. So you'll find an awkwardness and a quite indecisiveness in certain terminology, but do not think that that invalidates the message. And this is why we use more Sanskrit terms and try to use English to illuminate them. So David is one of the great acharyas of our time who has been a leader in this process of coming into the world. And each acharya comes from a sampradaya, which will give them an angle to the way that they're describing the Veda. And so this is important for everyone to remember so they don't think it's oppositional. It's just seeing it from a particular aspect and angle. And that's why they always use Sanskrit terminology to reinforce what they're teaching. Lovely to see you again, David.
Well, I'm also very happy to be with Jeffrey, who is a great kavi or seer poet. And I would also like to let people know that one of the first things I did is I spent several years just studying Rig Veda and the rishis and the kavis. Now, yoga begins with going back to the state of the drashta or the seer. That's what rishi means. So rishi and yoga are the same, and all these mantras are connected. And Kavindra here has been able to create a lot of very wonderful new poetry, even in English. So it's very happy to have that inspiration with us and sharing that also today. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, Vamadev Shastriji, for being with us as well as sharing your insight. I think a lot of viewers today who are watching us will be very happy to read this book and also get some wisdom and insight to know into the real reality of the world, what the life is, and how to seek that reality beyond the virtual realities where we have landed in today's time. So please stay around. Thank you so, so much. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Riddhi, isn't it so interesting? We have on our screen so many profound people, and it is just so heartwarming to have these profound people with us. And to all our viewers, yoga beyond body and mind is very essential, and each word and alphabet of YOGA, the yoga, the real knowledge, is the real insight that Vamadev Shastriji has shared with us over this time. Vamadev Shastriji, before you leave, your one last tip for all our viewers on this yoga episode, how this thing can be implemented and what best they can do to make their lives more happy before we move to Kavindra Rishiji.
Yes. Well, yes, it's very important that your life is rooted in meditation, whether it's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning or before you go to sleep at night. Have a meditative view, a contemplative view of yourself and life. And that way, yoga and meditation will reveal the essence of reality to you and in everything around you. All life is yoga. And Satchitananda is in all, but we just have to be aware and dedicated and continue that work and develop our sadhana as best we can. Take it one step at a time and just keep on going, and you will and eventually reach the top of the highest mountain. Hari Om.
Hari Om.